Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we are bringing Ginyu. I wanted to hit my head against the wall building this deck. I had a really interesting love-hate relationship with Ginyu in set 1. I found that when I first played the deck, it was a whole lot of fun, right? I really enjoyed playing the deck. And then on the digital client, I think I played Ginyu and ran into like Broly for 4 games in a row, maybe 5. And after that, I just instantly was turned off the deck. I really hated it. Every time that I've tried to record a Ginyu deck since, I've just always seemed to walk into Broly's, and I can't stand it anymore. So I put Ginyu down in set 1, but I still think he was a very strong leader. He needed a way to have his battle cards get to 25k power, and now we have that, right? I still don't think it's enough to make the deck as strong as the other leaders, for sure. I don't think that the engine is still as aggressive as all hell, but it now requires a bit more energy investment on your part compared to what you had to do before. So, once again, I don't know how I feel about Ginyu. I still think it's going to be trashed here. I'm going to say that, but for any Ginyu lovers out there, I thought I would put together a profile of my list right now, and obviously if people have been looking at this for a while, you know, feel free to mention in the comments, let me know what you think, what set 2 is going to look like for Ginyu, and if you think where its strengths and weaknesses are. For sure, put something in the comments and we can talk about it, but I still don't think that its power spike is anywhere near the other color, like the other leaders, and I'm actually going to say the other color. Like, yellow is obviously Ginyu's color, but it doesn't have access to as many of the yellow tools just because of the inherent size of the Ginyu Force itself. So it's an interesting one for me, but I'll go over the leader. So he's a draw leader on both sides. You awaken at 4 or less, but instead of drawing cards, you untap an energy, which is how it lent into the aggro package last set. So realistically, you wanted to spend an energy or 2 energy and then awaken. So you wanted to always awaken on your turn, whereas the other leaders, realistically, there's no downside to you, even crit leaders to an extent, but there was no downside to you awakening on your opponent's turn. Whereas this leader does kind of have that. So that while it did help, it also hurt in a way. But the awakened side is a tap 3, and I think it's discard 2. So you tap 3, discard 2 cards, and then you basically untap everything on your board that has Ginyu Force in the name, right? Now, Ginyu Force just swings for 20k. 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, on repeat for as long as you want, right? Being able to just swing and like all of your battle cards, then untap all of your battle cards, and then swing them all again. You used to be able to swing for anywhere between, if you had the board size, you could swing for like 8 to 12 times a turn. It was ridiculously strong. The problem is that when you walk into a Broly leader, most of your battle cards are useless. So, you know, you had to keep ditching cards from hand, and then they'll just go 1 for 1 with you every time, and then you just realistically didn't get the benefit of your leader skill because, you know, tapping 3 and discarding 2 to untap all of your Ginyu Forces, it meant that if you had 4 Ginyus, realistically, you were only getting 2 or 3 attacks through at most because you were probably going to have to combo off something on the board just to make them a threat. But we'll go through the list anyway. So I run 3 Sorbeys. It's just a turn 1 play, something for us cantrip wise. We run 4 Bulmas. The one thing I realised when I played Ginyu was that we were being held hostage life-wise quite a lot of the time because they want to... The way that Ginyu Force always worked was that you want to attack their leader on repeat, right? Quite consistently on repeat. Just get them to as little life as possible with as little energy as possible, right? That was the idea. But your opponent could stall you on 5 or 6 life, right? They could easily just sit back and watch, and there was not really much you could do about it. Bulma now gives us a way to get out of that a lot easier. So that's the reason why she's in here. 4 Jace. If you have 3 or more cards with Ginyu Force and their special traits among your leader and battle cards, you only need 2 battle cards. Sorry, you only need theoretically 1 battle card because Jace itself counts if you have a total of 3 or more cards with Ginyu Force. Yeah, so it's not even, yeah, so it does work. Sorry, my brain there for a minute, I thought I read that card wrong. So yeah, so you need 1 battle card, your leader's a Ginyu Force, and then the Jace itself is a Ginyu Force. So this will become a 20k just off of having 1 Ginyu Force battle card in the battle area. So he's very strong for that. I run the Self-Awaken Freezers for the same reason as I run the Bulma. It was just a way for us to get to our Awaken. In my old list, I honestly didn't run any Self-Awakeners, or ran very few of them, and I always felt that. Like, my opponent keeping me at 15k and my opponent not allowing me access to the active main was how I lost most of my Ginyu matches. So having a Self-Awakener is still worth it to me. For Ginyus, it's the way that enables our entire engine, basically. You know, we get to play this for free. We are locked out of Ginyus after we play this card, but just don't play a Ginyu after. It's just the short story, right? Just always play something, like if you're playing the Ginyu from this set, which we'll get to in a second, play that before you play this if you can, because obviously you're kind of locked out of Ginyus after that. But it's a very, very good card. There's no reason not to run it in this leader. I run 4 Zarbons for, again, the same reason as this Frieza. It's a Self-Awakener. He is a Frieza army, which enables the Ginyu as well, so there's no reason not to run it for that. Then this is the new Ginyu. The biggest benefit to this card is that he's a 10k combo, right? Ginyu Force inherently, besides Burter, they were all 5k combos. Now we have another 10k. He is only a 15k attacker himself, so he's pretty useless once he's on the board, but I say that. He's useless as an attacker, but you're not bringing him out for the attacker anyway, right? The active main, you switch it to rest, you choose 2 of your battle cards with Ginyu Force in their traits, and they get plus 5k for the turn. Now we have a way to attack into Broly without it costing us cards from hand. That's the whole point of this card, right? This is very good. This is exactly what you needed. It now allows us to go taller into Broly without it costing us anything from hand. And honestly, outside of that, I think I would rather keep the card as a 10k combo. I think if I'm attacking... If I'm just going face to most leaders, 20k is fine. It's only Broly and potentially Zamasu, which again, I'm not sure how relevant that's going to be, but it'll be Broly consistently is the biggest threat as a 25k leader. Ginyu now it gives us a way to get there, but you need to run it at 4 because 1, it's a 10k combo, but the other reason is if you take this to an event, because there's no side decking or anything like that, you need to have access to just be able to play the Ginyu. And if you don't, like I say, he's a 10k combo, he's able to defend these cards pretty well, you know, from 25k attackers, so once again, no real reason not to run him. And then we run 2 Nays. Another reason is a 10k combo. He is also a Self-Awakener. The only thing is he's not a Frieza army, so he's kind of useless as part of the chain goes, but he's good for the Awaken. 4 Burters, again, we needed more 10k combos. We now have it. I say we now have it. We had it already for Burter, but... And he's a 20k vanilla. It's just ways for us to constantly beat down our opponent. I run 2 Quis, right? This was an interesting one. I was tempted not to run them at all. The biggest thing that Qui had going for it was honestly that it was a 10k. And once again, if I played into green, and it took us a long time to try and beat our opponent to the point where, you know, they're 1 life or 2 life or whatever. Broly, again, being the biggest consideration for this, but we need a way to shut down their Broly and shut down their Android. The biggest thing that you'll probably see an Android player doing, oh sorry, not an Android player, sorry, any player who's running the Androids, this card actually, now that I think about it, it's not great in this deck because of the Androids, because what they'll do is they'll just choose 2 of your Ginyu Force, kill them, and then they'll attack the Double Striker, and if you block this, then you essentially get to rest nothing, right? Unless there's something else on the board that you can rest, but it's quite unlikely. But it just gives us a way to stop the Broly being a dual attacker. You know, fair enough, if Broly comes out, they'll kill 1 battle card, but that's all they'll get to kill. Because the first swing will block with Qui, and then obviously the Broly switches to active mode. When Qui dies, we just rest the Broly so it has no second attack, right? That's the whole point of it. So I still like it for that. It's another reason why, by the way, I wanted to stack the deck with a few more 10Ks. Again, I'm probably Broly traumatized from playing Ginyu, that I've just put this deck into a situation where I want this deck to be able to beat Broly. How consistently it can do it, I don't know. Senjubin kind of fucks up the whole thing, because the Ginyu turning a couple of your battle cards into 25Ks, as soon as our opponent Senjubins, well, now we're back to square one again, because Broly's going to be a 30k leader, and we're basically where we were 5 minutes ago, right? It's not going to change all that, but this being a 10k, meaning that if Broly attacks our 20ks, we get out of it for a 10k, right? That's another reason why I want as many 10ks in the deck as I'm showing. 4 Rakums, again, it's our Self-Awakener, and it's a way for us to free play Ginyu Forces, so once again, no reason not to. 4 super combos, Chilai just being the best option. As I'm sure you see, we've just went from 1 to 2 to 3 to 7, right? So we've cut out the entire middle chain of yellow, which is why I think that Ginyu in itself it's like a subset of yellow that just doesn't really exist. It's kind of strange to explain. But there's no reason to run the double striker. I mean, I argued a while ago that maybe you could have ran the double striker just because it was a way for us to, if we could ever get a Broly leader or any leader down to 2 life, it was a way for us to just full send on the double striker. But the more I played the deck, the more I realised that actually just prodding for 1 damage at a time, we either cripple our opponent's hand, or we swing so tall with an extra card that's about to come up in a minute that they can't deal with it. So yeah, it's an iffy one for me. You could easily make some changes here, you know, like, I don't know, cut the Nays, cut the Zarbon or whatever to include a couple of 5-drops. For sure, I think you could do that, but I don't know if it's going to win you matches. Like I say, the main strategy of Ginyu was always just poke in 1 damage at a time from 8 to 0. And then we have 3 bonds of the Ginyu Force, where we choose our leader or our battle card, and it gains plus 10k power base no matter what, but it also gains plus 5k for every card with Ginyu Force in the battle area and leader area. So at minimum, this is a 15k combo because our leader is obviously Ginyu, but if we have 2 or 3 Ginyu Forces, we can essentially have a 25k, 30k. I think the most I ever got buff-wise from bonds was like, I think it was plus 55k each time I activated it because I just had such a wide board. So this card can really go ridiculous, but you just need the setup, and I don't know if the setup's going to be there next set. And then we have, now you see the power of the Ginyu Force. This is your draw engine. This is active main for 1 energy. If you've got 2 or more battle cards with Ginyu Force and special traits, you draw 2, right? So the idea was that the Awaken turn, depending on how things laid out, but if we needed to spend the energy before Awakening, this was the best card. We just tap 1, draw 2, and then we Awaken, we untap that energy we just spent, and now we're back to square 1, but we're 2 cards up in hand, right? Or technically 1 card up in hand, but that's the idea behind it anyway. So let's say I think Ginyu's a really interesting deck next set. I don't know if it's still going to be viable. I still have it classed as trash, personally. I know a lot of people are not going to like that, but I think Ginyu at the start of last set was terrifying because people hadn't worked out their build yet, and then people really understood the power of Broly, and even though people kind of knew that Broly was strong, but because it was so relevant all the time, and it was just constantly there, Ginyu fell away. Like I said, the Ginyu here, the 2-drop, this one gives you access to now be a credible threat into the Broly leader, or even just any 25k leader for that matter, but I don't know if it's enough, and I don't know how relevant and how often that's going to come up to the point where I still don't think this deck is... At best, I think this deck could be a locals tier deck. I don't think it'll win. There might be the odd crazy person out there who tops an event with Ginyu. But once again, this is all pure hearsay until we start seeing tournament reports coming through from the US, from Europe, from wherever. But right now, I haven't seen anything to show that Ginyu is any better than it was last set. So that's the only advice I'll really give you. So if you are excited for Ginyu next set, I'm going to apologise if any of this video has kind of put you down on it. But it's still a fun deck, for sure. I think it'll be fun to play, so I might still pick it up next set and see how we get on with it. And if nothing else, your matches with Ginyu were always really fast. So if nothing else, you at least get a 5-minute game in, whether you win or lose, doesn't really matter. But yeah, so this is it. This is how it looks currently. Like I say, there's still things that I would maybe chop and change or cut or add in. I don't run the 1-drop Frieza, which is the rest anything, and it's a plus 10k combo. I might try and find space for that again, but I honestly, like I say, I don't know what I would cut for that. But it's still a great card just to have for that reason. But yeah, guys, let me know what you think in the comments. If you think that Ginyu is viable next set, or if you think I'm right in thinking that it's maybe just going to be a fun locals deck. But yeah, as always, if you haven't already, please give the video a like and a subscribe, and I will catch you all in the next one. Peace.